It's time to get inside the Giants huddle.
Huddle up, huddle up, huddle up.
On Giants.com.
Here we go.
And the Giants mobile
Get
app.
them in there, let's go.
Part of the Giants Podcast Network.
Welcome to the newest edition of the Giants Huddle Podcast. My name is John Schmelk. Today, a very special announcement by the New York Football Giants, and to join us to talk about it is our Chief Commercial Officer, Pete Gwelly. Pete, how are you?
I'm doing great, John. I'm excited. Camp's rolling. I mean, we're getting ready to start the season. It's a great day if you're in football.
It absolutely is, and a very exciting day for Big Blue. I'm sure the fans have seen it on social media by now if they're listening to this podcast, but why don't you give a little summary of the big announcement the Giants made today in terms of what they might look like in a couple of games on the field this year?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's always exciting when you bring back a piece of history, and that's what we did. I think from day one, we were looking for ways to celebrate the amazing heritage of this organization, and there's no better way to do that than through the uniforms. And so we knew we were going to be releasing some new uniforms coming up. Obviously, I'm sure we'll get into it, but it's a lengthy process. But we had so much kind of feedback that people love those uniforms from the 80s through 1999 that so many of our great players wore. We thought this was a perfect place to start.
Yeah, it's the blue jerseys from the 86 Super Bowl, the 90 Super Bowl, a lot of nostalgia. Why did you think it was important for ownership, for the organization to come together to bring these classic legacy uniforms back?
Well, one, I think it's the only way to do it. There's so much experience in this building, and there's been so many memorable seasons pulling that group together, being collaborative and trying to understand, what should we do? What should we release? When should we release it? What should it look like? Making sure we're getting all those perspectives. And I think probably more than anything else, John, this is so important to our fans. I get so much feedback from fans on uniforms, even minor tweaks that we make. We knew there would be a keen interest in this.
Yes, the presence of a thin stripe on the pants gets a lot of attention. I agree.
It did.
When did this process start? Like, when did you guys start trying to work on this?
Yeah, you don't wake up in the morning and decide to change uniforms. It takes time. I've been involved with a number of these processes, and they're all pretty lengthy. We started this one about 2 years ago. We worked very closely with the league. There's a number of standards that needs to be met. There's a number of timelines that need to be met. So it is a pretty involved process, but this one in particular started about 2 years ago, so it's nice to see it come to fruition.
Now, how did it come together, right? Because you want to match the colors exactly. Mm-hmm. It has to, the fabrics used in the 80s are different than what the fabrics are now, so the colors might look different. How did you work with the league, I'm sure with Nike, right, with Jackie, our equipment director, and everybody else to kind of make sure this was exactly what you wanted it to be?
Yeah, I mean, we put an internal team together that has a lot of experience with the original uniforms. And then to your point, we leveraged the league to make sure we were getting that level of expertise as well. But it is critical. All these uniforms, they're never exact, right? They are always evolve in some way, shape, or form, but you need to get the colors right. There's certain attributes that you need to get right. So we were very, very careful, very deliberate to make sure that happened in this case.
I know you have a very big team upstairs too, right? Neil Shah, Doug Murphy, who obviously is great in terms of the graphics on our history and that sort of stuff. Everyone in our department, Mike Becton, Matt Swenson, all the guys have kind of come together here to kind of put it all together.
Yeah, and you mentioned Jackie Miles. So, this is one of the great things about working for the Giants. There's a really great connection between business and football sides. So from day one, we worked with football to make sure everybody on that side of the house understood exactly what we're going to do. And because, when you wear these things and it finally culminates on the field, it's a big deal. Guys will be excited to wear them. It'll be a motivational moment, and it can impact things like performance. So we're excited to see what happens when we roll them out.
I want to get to that. We saw the launch video with Saquon, right? What's been the reaction from the players now that some of them had a chance to put these on, really see them? What's been the reaction?
Very good. And these guys have been great because obviously we did not want anything to get out early. I think if we can build some momentum and excitement and launch it all at one time, the impressions are bigger, the excitement level is bigger. But we had to sit with these guys early in the process and go to football and say, hey, who should we use for this? Who do you think would be interested in this? So we obviously shot a lot of the graphics quite some time ago. Mm-hmm. And the guys were great. They loved them from the minute they put them on. I think in the video and a lot of the other pieces that we used here from a marketing standpoint, you could see the level of excitement that they had. But the thing that was best about it is knowing that you can collaborate with that group. And these guys are all high-profile guys, and they understood that we wanted to keep this quiet until we had a chance to share it with the fans.
And for that launch video, you had a chance to bring back Lawrence Taylor, have him do that video with Saquon. What was it like bringing LT back into the fold and working with him?
Yeah, from the day I got here, John, you realize pretty quickly that we have this amazing history and an incredible base of alumni They're all very active. They're all very well known. And some of these guys are incredibly iconic. I have been looking for a way to work with LT probably since I got here, and we thought this is the perfect moment. I mean, nobody really personifies what the Giants were about in that era better than him. And needless to say, when we reached out, he was excited. He came up, and when he came up, not only did we bring him here because we were, shooting a lot of the content, he came up and he spoke to the team, and it was a really integrated process of getting him into the building and bringing him back into the family and using it for this project.
I got to imagine it was fun for Saquon to work with him in that capacity too, right?
Yeah, and I think, when you think about it too, it's a great matchup. LT is so well known, and obviously Saquon is an incredibly dynamic player, with a huge following and a big personality. So bringing those two guys together was a lot of fun, and I think you can see how much they both enjoyed it in that video production.
No, absolutely. And you talk about the alumni, well, convenient. Fellow linebacker to Florence Taylor, Carl Banks, happens to run a clothing company now, and you guys are working with him. Tell us about it.
Yeah, Carl, talk about assets and resources, incredible. With his background, what he did here, how revered he is as a player, and then how accomplished he is in the apparel space. And obviously, he's still a giant, right? He works on a number of productions and broadcasts for us. So there really isn't a better person to get involved in something like this. And Carl's done some really cool retro pieces before. And now we had a chance to kind of dive in and find out what are the things we want to roll out in conjunction with this uniform release. And we worked closely with Carl. He recommended a number of things. Obviously, his brand is producing some product.
Starter.
But it's really cool because a lot of it's associated with what we wore on the sidelines or some of the players wore.
Well, I was going to say, if you look at the 80s videos, like, they're wearing starter jackets, like on the side. That's what they wore back then.
Yeah, so it's definitely a retro play. So far, the feedback we've gotten is great. It'll be fun to see people break these out during the season, especially when we're wearing the uniforms.
So I want to remind folks that Giants season tickets are on sale now for the 2022 season. In addition to ticket savings, membership benefits include access to exclusive events, experiences, pre-sales, and more. You can lock in your seat starting at just $100. Call 888-NYG-1925 or visit giants.com/tickets for more information. You mentioned the apparel. Well, it's going to come out kind of in waves, right? So you have the two games. You have Chicago and Washington. Those are the games that the Giants will be wearing these uniforms. And you have half the line coming out for the first, and then the heavier stuff for the second. And the thing that jumped out to me, because my dad, he attended the 86 Super Bowl, was a huge Giant fan growing up. He had that blue sweater with like the red stripes. So just talk about the timing, when those are coming out, and just kind of why that was so important to make sure you time those out the way you did.
Yeah, I mean, we wanted to come out right about the same time we were going to actually wear the jerseys on the field. But I think, more than anything, John, when you do something like this, you have an obligation to do a lot of research and be really deliberate and strategic and look back and see what was that era all about. So obviously, the way we designed the uniform, we think reflects that. But how we decided on those pieces, we think reflects that as well. If people go out and just, they're searching the internet, they're going to see a lot of photos of some pretty prominent Giants and on the field and off the field wearing those pieces. So we thought that was important to connect it to and then roll the products out and make them available about the same time that the jersey comes out.
I mean, Bill Parcells wearing the Giants sweater. I mean, that's as iconic as it gets, right? I mean, that's what he did. And I mentioned the two games, right? You have the Bears on October 2nd. Then you have Washington, the other home game on December 4th. Why'd you pick those two games?
That we comb the schedule as soon as we get it every year and try to decide, what themes do we want to drop on certain days. And as part of this process, we went back and looked at those Super Bowl seasons and quickly realized that we had played Chicago and Washington during a couple of those runs. And they're such historic franchises as well, and the days that they fall on, we thought that would be the perfect fit to roll these out and that the fans could really get excited and kind of connect back to the history because we're playing franchises that have strong histories of their own.
Now, for fans that are trying to decide, well, what games am I going to attend this year? Besides the uniforms, what other special things will be happening at those two games?
Well, first of all, you want to be at those games because if you're going to truly celebrate the history of the team, we're going to try to take you back in time. Everything that's done around those games is going to be thematically tied to that history. So when you walk in the building and you see the end zones, you'll remember them. When you walk in and you see the graphics on the walls, you'll understand what we're doing. When you hear the music that's being played, when you see some of the video graphics that go up, and you see how we integrate alumni and the merchandise that we tie in the giveaway that we're doing at the game, which is a retro pennant, all that stuff is connected to that part of our history. So, if you're a Giants fan, a longtime Giants fan, and you have fond memories of that window and those two Super Bowls, you're going to want to be here.
Old school red end zones with the blue lettering in the helmet. Check it out.
Yeah, it's just fun to be able to do that, to go back and look at what was done before and then put a little bit of a modern twist on it. But, these fans, they're just so focused on the Giants brand, and it means so much to them. That's why any little change, will create an uproar in some ways, typically positive, but you're going to hear from your fans when you do anything. So we really want to do it right and make this bigger than just a uniform launch.
And LT also contributing. You guys are going to have a bit of a sweepstakes to win some LT memorabilia too,
Yeah, we have
right?
a lot of fun stuff coming on. So we'll be doing some sweepstakes along with it. So basically we'll have a week-long celebration leading up to the games. And then when you get to the games, you're going to understand the thematic as well. But there'll be a lot of opportunities for people to engage during the weeks leading up to those legacy games.
Hey, Giant fans, don't miss out on your chance to experience a premier hospitality experience. Watching Giant games and world-class concerts in 2022 as a Giant Suite partner. Limited full-season locations are available or place a deposit for individual games. Call 888-NYG-1925 or visit giants.com/suites for more information. All right, let's get into the nitty-gritty on the uniforms themselves, Pete, because you can look at the Giants' Twitter account, social media feeds, see what they look like. You mentioned this before. What are some of the rules and requirements you guys had to work with the NFL to get this to happen and get it in there for 2 games?
Yeah, it's pretty specific. Like I said, it definitely represents the previous uniform, but jerseys, as you know, have changed considerably since then.
A little bit tighter, just a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, they're definitely more fitted than
Yeah.
they were before. So, every aspect of it is modernized or evolved. It definitely reflects the jerseys that you're used to seeing on those guys from that era. But when they put them on, it's going to look like a modern day jersey. But we do have a few things that are discoverable, is the way that I would put it. So, for instance, inside the neckline, there's not many teams that have done this. We've put a heritage slogan on there: once a Giant, always a Giant. So every single player, when they put that uniform on, that's going to be inside the neckline of their jersey, which I think, one, it's going to be great when we sell the jerseys, and that's a part of it, and you can get your own. That's a powerful message, to deliver to your players when they step up on game day. And there's so much tied to the Giants' history. We thought that was probably one of the more iconic aspects, and we wanted to make sure it was included.
Yeah, but otherwise, these uniforms are pretty much identical, right, to what they had in the 80s and 90s?
Yeah, I mean, the PMS colors are there, the way the numbers are outlined, the block letters on the nameplates,
the fonts,
are
right?
all
Yeah.
very similar. And the one thing we certainly don't want to leave out is the helmet.
I was going to go there next. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that made this possible is the league is allowing us to wear a couple of different helmet designs this year, so we could go back to that navy helmet with the Giant script on it that is so incredibly popular. So that, to me, ties the entire thing together. So to see it all, we did a lot of shots of the guys just in uniforms, but when they run out on the field and they're wearing it all tied together with that iconic helmet, that's going to be a real special moment.
And it's funny, you wouldn't think it, but the white face mask makes a difference. Like the way it's just different than the gray and the way it pops.
Every piece of it.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it now, and there's a picture of Phil Simms on your wall, and he obviously wore that uniform well. But one of the things that we also tried to do during this entire kind of marketing exercise is we wanted to really juxtapose old versus new. So all those memories came flooding back. If you're going to see Phil Simms in that uniform, we want to show Daniel Jones in that uniform,
Yeah.
right? If you see Rodney Hampton in that uniform, we want to show Saquon in that uniform. If you're going to see LT in it, we wanted to show Leonard or Aziz in that uniform. We think it's just a really cool way for people to kind of look and go, oh my God, this is what they wore then. This is how it's evolved. This is what it is now. This is the players that wore it back then. These are the players that are wearing it now. We thought that would be a fun way to bring it back.
Absolutely. How does this work in conjunction then with the color rush, with the white, with the kind of the retro white uniforms they've worn the last few years,
Yep.
with the same type of Giants helmet, but it was a different color. So how do those two work together?
Still a different color. We're going to be wearing the white color rush once this year. I'm not sure where we're at in the time frame, whether I can disclose that or not, but we'll be wearing it again this year. Again, great feedback on that last year. So we're excited to keep it within our palette. And that's the other thing about these jerseys. Like these jerseys and this uniform can stay a part of what we're doing. So I would anticipate seeing it again next year.
Yeah, I would imagine, and obviously merchandise sales has something to do with it when the league makes these decisions, right? But I got to imagine that if teams want to get more creative with this sort of stuff, that the league's probably going to become more permissive as they move forward, as long as it remains in the safety standards, obviously.
Yeah, well, I spent 10 years in the NBA, and we had a number of different variations for uniforms, and they're all popular. Some would move more than others, but it was fun to be able to experiment and be a little entrepreneurial with what you were doing. It's nice now that we have that a little bit more optionality in the NFL to do these kind of things. It's a fun exercise, and again, especially when you have this kind of history to draw from, you're only limited by your creativity. So these are really fun projects to work on, and I'm excited that we can bring it for the fans.
I know we talked about the people in-house that made that happen, but I know Quest is also one of the presenting sponsors of this, and they've played a big role in this as well.
Yeah, they've been a longtime sponsor of the Giants, and we brought this to them, and they immediately jumped on board and understood, the legacy position and being connected to it. And Quest has been a big player in this market for quite some time, and obviously was a big player recently within the pandemic. And so we thought they'd be the perfect partner, and we collaborated with them on this. A lot of the things you're going to see on game day are the result of those discussions.
So I know what fans are going to say, why can't you wear these more than twice? Why can't you wear the color rush more than once?
Yeah, I hear that a lot. Yeah, and like I said, it'd be fun. I think, but I think one of the things that make this unique is if you wear it too much, then it's not different.
It's not special, right?
Yeah. So I think we picked the right games. I think we built the platforms out the right way. I'm really looking forward to the response from those. I'm looking forward to the guys officially wearing them, for the first time on a game day. So this is going to be a lot of fun. I think, to your point, this is what makes it really special, is the fact that you can't do this every day.
Since I have you in front of me, one question I get surprisingly often on Twitter. Fans love the red jerseys from like the early 2000s. Any shot?
I never want to rule anything out, John, but what I will say is, we put a 5-year plan together that started a couple years ago. And I don't think it's a secret that we'll be celebrating our 100th anniversary here in the near future. So there's a lot of exciting things on the horizon.
Can you hint at anything for fans? Can you give them a little taste?
I'm reluctant to do that.
Okay.
A lot of stuff still kind of in the planning phase, but I think a lot of stuff that our fans will be excited about.
Well, we can't wait to see it. Pete, anything else you want to say to the fans out there as we head into training camp?
No, just it's great to have you back. I mean, it's exciting that we're open for camp again. It's been 2 years since we've had fans here. We did, have the Fan Fest last year, and we're keeping it. So, we've got a bunch of moments where people want to come out and experience this new generation of Giants football, which it is, right? With a new GM and a new coach, a lot of young players. This is the perfect time to do it. So we'd love to see you at camp, and we'd love to see people at our Fan Fest on August 5th. And
by the way, you mentioned the coach and GM, so I'll ask you this too, because fans always ask this to me. What has it been like, and what is the building like with Joe Shane kind of at the top of the pyramid, and obviously Brian Dable right next to him as the head coach? How is it different, and what is it like working with him?
I mean, I've been in professional sports for 23 years. I've never seen it better. These guys understand culture. They understand collaboration and alignment, and from the minute they've got here, they have not stopped working. So even by osmosis, right, it's brought up, I think, the level in every aspect of what we do, even projects like this, right? We don't want to let those guys down, so we're making sure we're trying to cover off on every single aspect to make it as good as possible. But these guys are incredible teammates, and I'm looking forward to being part of what they build.
And we all look forward to seeing it. Pete, thank you so much for the time. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Pete Gwelly, the Giants Chief Commercial Officer, we thank him for joining us on today's episode of the Giants Huddle Podcast. My name is John Schmelk. It's been a long slog, folks, but the 2022 season is finally upon us with training camp. Can't wait to see you out there. Hope we see you practice in the coming weeks. Enjoy it, and we'll see you next time on the Giants Huddle.